everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name's Teresa. I do videos on whatever I want because I don't like putting myself in a box. And today, I know the title of this video is really weird, but I was thinking about it the other day and I was like, you know what? There's like quite a few phrases and sayings that if you grew up in an all adopted family, that you get to say and use that people who didn't grow up in an all adopted family don't get to use, and otherwise they don't get to hear these things. And it's a little bit interesting because I'm like, the language in an all adopted family is a bit different than those who did not grow up in an all adopted family. This will make more sense, I promise, once I get into this. So I'm first going to clip back the little flyaways back here, so don't mind me. If you are celebrating Easter today, happy Easter. I just started a new job and I am still working through when I'm taking off, when I'm not taking off. And for me, it's a 5 hour drive back home. And so I would have had to leave Friday and then literally drive back today to make it back for work on Monday. So I'm still working through all of that, still trying to figure out like when to take days off and stuff like that. Usually I take days off for certain doctor's appointments, and I think I'm gonna do that. Um, yeah, I'm building up PTO, and so the thing is, grew up in a family where we weren't allowed to miss school for any reason unless we were on our deathbed. And so now I see how that is affecting me as an adult. And so, yeah. And obviously, well, not obviously, definitely not true for every job, but I'm given PTO and sick leave. And so I know if I don't, take that time, if I don't use it, especially for certain doctor's appointments, then I'm not gonna end up taking PTO and sick leave when I should. So, yay, adulting. So, anyways, let's get into this. I didn't mean to start this off like really deep or whatever, but I don't know what my hair is doing. It's just the flyaways recently are a thing. But yeah, let's just jump right into this. So, one of the phrases that is learned, I feel like, pretty early on, if you come from a family where everyone is adopted, such as myself, is using the phrase when your family got you. And if you're a kid, you say when I came to my family. If you're internationally adopted, then you say when I came to America, when I came to the States, that kind of phrasing. This is just so unique to families, I think, versus people who get to say, like, when I was born, and obviously parents who get to say when my child was born, um, that kind of thing. So that's really like an interesting thing that we have to alter, I guess. And it's just, I don't know, like when you think about it, it's just like a really almost weird like saying, I guess. To me, it is at least. I wrote that again from like the child's perspective of like when you came to your family. So once like people know you are adopted, they don't say like when you were born. They have to say like when you came to your family. Da 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 da. So yeah, it's just a super like alternative thing that people get to say to you as well. Okay, the next thing is so weird and I can't believe adopted kids get to say this, but they straight up get to ask, "How much did I cost?" I don't really feel like I need to explain how weird this is because no human being should necessarily be able to say or ask, "How much did I cost?" And the weirdest thing is, if you have ever asked your parents this, I have, and they immediately know what you're talking about. And it's just weird because no biological kid usually asks their parents how much they cost. And it was actually really interesting because I literally got a TikTok from my friend who like sent me a message. Well, she sent me the TikTok first, and then she sent me a follow-up message of "How much did you cost?" with a laughing emoji. And we're really close, so I didn't like take it anyway or whatever. And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Watch the TikTok first, and then you'll know what I'm talking about." So I did, and apparently there was this thing a while back of adoptees on TikTok asking their parents how much they cost. And then we went into this whole conversation of what was more expensive, having kids, and she shared what she knew about her cost of actually birthing her kids. And then I shared what I knew about my parents adopting kids. And my parents adopted two of us internationally, my sister and I, and then one of my siblings, um, like I was gonna say locally, but like within the state that we lived in. Um, and so my mom shared both of the costs for that. And then I went into a separate realm and did, like, for a same-sex couple, specifically for a lesbian couple, if they chose to carry their child. And I found some videos showing the cost of that. So we, like, compared costs of that, and it was interesting. Um I think what we learned overall is same-sex couples s- is more expensive if you choose to carry your child. The next most expensive would be adoption, and then the least expensive would be um, actually having your kid as a heterosexual couple. So it's just a really interesting thing that you get to say. And even I guess too, if you're not adopted, but if you have same-sex couples, same-sex parents, you also get to say this now that saying that and throwing that out there. But especially for adoptees, it's a more normal question to be throwing out there, I would say. And so, yeah, yeah. The next thing is usually said as a joke. It used to be said as a joke more in the olden days, which was "you're adopted," which is said to siblings. Don't know why this was ever a joke, but, we get to say it, and it's an actual thing. It's, like, an actual thing. It was yeah, I don't know why people say this in families. Um, yeah, sometimes it's I don't know. I see it or I hear about this, and I look at, the person that it's said to, and I'm like, "Do you not realize how much you look like your parent?" Um, and it's like, "Oh, yeah." Like, yeah, and it's interesting because then the parent has to be like, "This was you in my tummy, and was you when you were born in the hospital in my arms." And it's like, "Yo, if you're adopted, you generally don't have that." You definitely do not have photos of you in your parents' stomach, in their tummy. And you definitely usually do not have a photo of you as an infant newborn status in your parents' arms. So, I need water. Sorry, guys, between my allergies right now and just the medication, it's a whole thing. But yeah, we actually like get to say it, and obviously, like it's true for my sister and I. Our parents are white, so it's pretty obvious. But yeah, um, here's something from the kids' side. Uh, we kind of have to clarify which parent we're talking about, which is really interesting. So we have to say my biological mother or father, and then say my adoptive mother or father when we're telling a story or something. And that's really interesting and unique, where obviously, if you're not adopted, you don't have to say that. um, and I never realized that I had to do that or anything when I tell stories until, like, kind of recently, because I have to, like, make sure people understand, like, which parent I'm talking about. And I know there oh my god, I read things online of people saying to adoptees, like, "Oh, your real mother, your real father," and that's just absolutely disgusting. I cannot believe people are saying that to adoptees. That's just Um, I don't like that whatsoever. I'm thankful that I have never been addressed with that. Yeah, nobody has ever said that to me. I pray to God nobody has ever said that to my parents. Um, yeah, that's just absolutely, like, disgusting. So, yeah. So there's that we kind of, like, have to-ish say when telling a story. Um So yeah, and I definitely did this I feel like I definitely said it more maybe when I was younger, but yeah, I just realized how weird it is to have to clarify, like, which set of parents or which parent I'm talking about, so yeah. Here's a bonus, which is more like a story time. I If you grew up in an all-adopted family, let me know when you ever heard the word pregnant or pregnancy, because I grew up in an all-adopted family, and I have extended family that are all significantly older. They don't live anywhere near us, and I never grew up with the word pregnant or pregnancy in my vocabulary. And so one day, my friend who lives very close to me was walking her dog with her mom, and they told me that their dog was pregnant. And because I'm adopted with my siblings, well, not with my siblings, but my siblings are also adopted, not biologically related to me, um, especially my older sister, who's adopted from the same place as me. Um, Oldest sibling is not adopted from the States. And our close family friends also have all 3 of their kids are adopted. So, never was exposed to the word pregnant or pregnancy. And so they were telling me that their dog was pregnant, and I could not comprehend the word pregnant. Now, granted, I was quite young at the time. I also had, like, a reading comprehension issue as well. So that probably didn't help anything, but I kept comparing the word pregnant to president because that was the closest word I could come up with. So they kept saying the word pregnant to me, and I kept saying the word president to them. I was like, "President? Like a dog can be president?" Um, and they told me over and over again, "Pregnant," and I had no clue what that meant. So finally, at one point, the mom said, "No, the dog's gonna have puppies." And I was like, "Oh." And so I, like, never realized that I had to, like, grow up learning the word pregnant and what that meant, and also, like, pregnancy and what that meant. So after that point, I never questioned the word pregnant and pregnancy again. I never went up to my mom and asked about that word. And the thing is, in elementary school, my class in particular, we all, for the most part, were the youngest in our families. And so at that point, the ones who weren't adopted, basically everybody, because I was the only adopted one in the class, they all were the youngest in the family. And if they had younger siblings, they were already born. And so it wasn't like anybody was actually actively pregnant um, at that time. And so there was also that. And yeah, there was something else I was gonna say as well, and now I totally forgot it. It was there, and I completely forgot it. Well, I guess I was gonna kind of expand on that maybe. So then until I grew up and started working with kids, then I heard, the word pregnant more often, um, pregnancy, hearing about, like, pregnancy stories, um, obviously learning about how all of that works. And so then in high school too, I took a class called Child Development, and I loved that class. I thought it was so interesting and learned all about that, and that was really cool. And so, yeah, I really feel like there was something else I was gonna say kind of on the lines of that. Oh, I remember. So another thing that's, like, kind of interesting growing up being, like, adopted into, like, an all-adopted family is and just being adopted in general is the fact that, like, you don't have those early years of life kind of things. The fact that you don't have, for the most part, photos of when you are an infant, when obviously your adopted mom adoptive sorry, I said adopted. Adoptive mom is pregnant with you, um, the first couple months, honestly, for most adoptees, you don't have photos of yourself from 0 months until 12 months generally, and so that's really hard to deal with because for me in 6th grade, what we did was in our yearbook, our class yearbook, we had, guess the baby picture in it, and I had 24, yeah, 23, 24. I think it was 24. 24 kids in my class, and all the rest of them were white, and everybody had, like, actual infant photos of them, where I had a toddler photo of myself. And obviously, that mixed with the fact that I am not white made it very, very easy to know which baby picture was me. And so that was really difficult to deal with. And I remembered like telling my mom about how I felt about that. And she was like, "Oh, I can disguise you to look like this kid." And I was like, "Mom, he moved like 2, 3 years ago." So that's really frustrating. I also remember excuse me, you guys, I need water again. I also remember kind of the same thing happening in high school. Um, they use baby pictures a lot when you graduate high school for I don't even know what reason. I think it's for like a slideshow. At least my high school did. I think it's a slideshow in the beginning of graduation. Like they play it before you walk into um the graduation ceremony. And yeah, it's a little bit hard-ish to a degree because again, like everybody else had baby photos. And I remember, I think it was my tutor being like, yeah, hand in your baby photos, go through your baby books and whatever. And I kind of remember being offended by the term baby book because I felt like I didn't have a baby book. I felt like I had a toddler book. I remember being like, I don't know, like offended or just very like, because I worked specifically in a daycare and working with infants versus young toddlers versus older toddlers. Oops. I remember just like being very precise with the wording. And so I remember being like correcting her and like, oh, for me it's a toddler book or whatever. And so yeah, I remember kind of like getting upset or whatever over that. And she very just politely corrected herself. And that's really interesting. And I just know a lot of adoptees who struggle, obviously, with not having those early, early years, well, months specifically, and even years, kind of depending, you know, on the situation. But um, most of us definitely don't have the first like year documented anywhere. And that's really hard to deal with. Um, as I'm trying to kind of like go through disability stuff, I'm really trying to see like if there's any documentation about late communication, because I realized that with the adoption, I found tiny, tiny bits of records that said a little bit about my physical development, but said nothing about verbal like development. And I think because maybe once I got cleared for international adoption, then the orphanage was like, well, she got cleared for international adoption, so we're not really going to work with her on, you know, developing the native language. And so maybe that's why they didn't teach me to speak Tamil, which is my native language. Um, and so then I actually didn't talk apparently for years once I got here to the United States because I went through my IEP from high school when I got reevaluated in 2016 is the date on that. And I just noted a place where my mom literally said that I didn't talk for years. And that's mostly due to my shyness. And I kind of want to ask her about that, especially if everything kind of works out. Excuse me. Everything works out with testing to get disability or whatever. And if it doesn't, then I definitely want to figure out how I can get evaluated for my disability without having to kind of go that route. And I will still need information like from my mom or whatever about that. So that's really interesting. So, anyways, I hope you guys like this video. If you guys have any more like phrases or anything like that um that you think of, please let me know down below. I feel like there's probably so many that, if you grew up in an all adopted family, that was used, but obviously, like, that's your normal, and you don't really think about it until you're older. And so, yeah, let me know down below. I mean, obviously, one that we can't use is like, you look like your mom, you look like your dad, especially if you're internationally adopted. I mean, my oldest sibling is adopted, but he is white and he looks like my adoptive dad. And so he's always gotten that his whole life. So that's kind of very dependent on the situation. But let me know if there's anything else down below. Sorry, guys. And like this video if you liked it. And again, happy Easter if you're celebrating today. I really need to get some of these papers lying around situated and cleaned up. So that's what I'm going to do. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful week. I will see you all next week. I think next week is that, oh my gosh, it's going to be the end of April. So it should be a weight loss update, which I do have, hopefully, an update for you guys. Hopefully I've lost at least a pound. Um, and then I'm going to talk about some like diet changes that I'm going to be trying out with it. Um, it's probably going to more be like a therapy session, honestly, for me. So, anyways, I'm going to let you guys go. I love you guys. Thank you so much for the support, and I'll see you all next week.